Yo, what is up, Crockxen clan members, anime fans, and others so silent upon this video? I'm SoresanCrockxen, and today we're doing anime time once again with Chaos Head, which is a show I finished today. Now this video is gonna go up on Friday. It initially was supposed to be uploaded on Thursday, but there's another video that I want to upload on Thursday, and so I pushed this back to Friday. But you're gonna get like 4 videos almost consecutively. Like you're gonna get 3 videos on Thursday, which is the video which I'm not gonna say, and then 2 Bloody Platinum episodes, and then this video is gonna go up on Friday alongside another video that I'm planning on making, but that one I'm gonna record tomorrow. But anyways, so Chaos Head, that's what you guys hear. You guys here for the review. You guys here for anime stuff. So Chaos Head, I honestly don't remember how I found it. I can't remember. I mean, I know where I found it, but I can't actually remember when I decided to, put it on my list. So I put all my shows on a list I have on my phone, and then I start going through them in the process of 4 at a time, plus my weekly series. So I don't remember exactly when I saw that one because I didn't remember anything about what I read about it. So I went into it semi-blind because I had seen stuff about it before. Like I looked it up, right? Or I found it and then I learned other stuff about it. But I don't know. I really don't know how I feel about this series. And here's why. I finished it. I finished the series, but at the same time, I kept asking myself, why am I still watching this? Like I watched the first 2 episodes because I normally judge series through the first 2 episodes. And because through that, if I like both episodes, then I'll watch the series. If I like one but not the other, then I'll watch the 3rd episode to see to be like the final decision point to see if I'm gonna watch the series or not. And with this one, I honestly I don't know what it was. It wasn't an amazing series, but it wasn't terrible enough to where I just said fuck it and dropped it. So but I kept asking myself every time I went back to watch the episodes that because I watch weekly series and then 4 at a time where I just go like 2 episodes each for each one in a loop. And every time I got to that series, I kept asking myself, why am I still watching this? And here's the reason why. This series suffers from the main character being just unlikable in every way, shape, and form. There is nothing interesting about this character. The only quality you can say that people can relate to is his whole otaku persona. Because essentially, he's a person who is an introvert. He doesn't like to be outside. He doesn't like to socialize. And so basically, he's all about anime and video games, and he has a lot of figurines, and it's basically all he thinks about is anime and video games. So I mean, if you're an otaku, I guess you can kind of go that way. The problem is normally just regular like those big hardcore anime fans who have no life besides anime, you see them buying collectibles and stuff like that, or you see them buying like posters and all this other junk. This dude is imagining one of his favorite anime characters literally he lives in a freaking storage container, by the way. He imagines her being there with him, talking to him, having conversations with him, freaking being in love with him. Apparently they're married, and there's all this other nonsense. So he's delusional, and that's actually the main purpose of the series. Because the way Chaos Head works, it's a harem psychological series where in this world they live in this particular city where the GE rates are off the charts. GE rates, the way they explain it, has something to do with gravity and mind, something to do with the mind and how it affects the mind of young people. Because apparently this city is just filled with teenagers and just young people, and they're just attracted to the place. And essentially the whole goal or the whole plot that goes throughout the series is there's the main character alongside with these other girls and the bad guy in the series. they're called gigalomaniacs, and essentially what they are is human beings who have the ability to perceive something and then or imagine something, make like an illusion, delusion, just something that no things that make people insane, like they start seeing stuff or imagining things, they make those things real. The way they do it is by being track because it's a lot of science mumbo jumbo that's thrown in there. They talk about like electromagnetic waves and how the blind sight of your eyesight and stuff that your brain can't perceive, or being able basically to connect the sensors that are in your vision and create this illusion, making it seem real by transmitting that information into your brain and having it processed, and then having it relay back to where you're actually seeing the thing, even though it's not there. Well, it's technically there because they create it and make it a real thing. That's the way their powers work. Now, every Gigalomaniac has what's called a D-Sword, which is essentially a weird-looking sword that they create out of nothing. They have to go through their own separate trials and own psychological tortures to have the ability to summon their individual sword. So essentially, we do get to see the process of how some of these characters got their swords. Basically, there was one chick who basically her dad betrayed her and her mother and sister by having them be experimented on by a company that wants to control the world via a device that's supposed to have the same powers as Gigalomaniacs, with the whole being able to create and have people perceive images that aren't there, but then end up making them a real thing. Thus, people are afraid and they're able to do some kind of mind control. So basically, her dad betrayed her by them experimenting on the mother and the sister by having the mother have a device on her head that made her perceive her little baby, and the baby was actually dead the entire time. And so but the machine was having her perceive that the baby was still alive, and she was taking care of her daughter when the whole time the baby was dead because she wasn't taking care of it technically. But she perceived it to be dead or perceived it to be alive, and so she went through this whole torture or psychological problem of her dad betraying the family and seeing her mother suffer because they turned off the machine, thus making her see the baby dead and freaking out and all this other stuff. There's this other girl who had a problem with an identity crisis where people kept asking her who she was and she didn't know, so she kept questioning who she was and her real identity. We had another character who is actually like a rock star, and she went through this whole holy process of not believing in anything and then feeling like the word of God saved her and all this other stuff. And then this other chick who was experimented on by the evil, bad guy of the series. Like basically she was abused by him and all this other stuff, and then she was able to get out. Just a bunch of crazy stuff. It was ridiculous. And then so their whole goal is to stop the freaking bad guy from having the machine work. They do tests. They do like I believe it's like 3 tests throughout the series, which causes like massive earthquakes and other stuff. Earthquakes, because they are actual earthquakes, but the machine makes it to where people start thinking other things. But because it's like an earthquake and then like a blinding light that nobody understands what's really going on. That's where the mind stuff starts happening. It's just a bunch of crazy stuff. The main character ends up. This is the most messed up part about this series, is that we're giving this character who's really like he's supposed to be a gigalomaniac, but he himself is so pathetic. We see him go through this process of him being just doesn't like to socialize, to having apparently multiple personalities without them even explaining to us how that, because we see the switch in personalities. Because apparently he has a conversation with himself ahead. Like basically, it was like he talked to himself by sending himself messages as with a particular name, and then when he was at home, he was answering himself, and he thought that he was actually answering somebody else. So it looked like he was talking to somebody else. Then when we're shown, there were two separate dates, and apparently it was him, but we never even saw him in that state where he was the one asking questions. And so we go from that to where he's trying to, I guess, open up more. He actually ends up he sees a murder, right? And then he actually ends up being a suspect because a camera catches him running away from the scene of the crime with one of the murder or something that looks like the murder weapon. And so he like books it, and then so he sees this girl and sees her. She was at the scene, so he thinks she's the murderer, and she apparently is friends with him, but he can't remember anything about her, and so he goes from that to leaning on this one chick, um, whose sister killed herself because of the device and this whole mental control, mind control thing, and she actually was one like that was her suffering, dealing with the fact that her sister's dead and thinking that it was actually her fault, but then realizing it wasn't, and being able to. Then she summoned her sword. Excuse me. And so he started leaning on her, and then she blew his cover, or thought she blew his cover because apparently she thought he was the murderer. And then he goes on a freaking just freak out stage where he doesn't want to talk to anybody again because he trusted somebody, and that ended up going nowhere and actually, bit him in the ass. And then the girl he thought was the killer, he actually ended up trusting her because she kept saving him, protecting him. So he went through this whole phase of trying to trust her, and then ended up, trusting her, and then finding out she was lying to him the whole time because apparently he's not even real. Yeah, that's the biggest mind shot of the series. He's not even a real person. Apparently, the guy who he's named after created him because he's a gigalomaniac, right? And he's incapacitated right now. Like he's in a wheelchair and he's slowly dying. He has a disease which apparently his powers are clashing with it, and then actually made him grow older faster. So he's a really old man in a wheelchair, and so he created this, the main character as it's supposed to be him. And so we're like, what the heck? Because we kept seeing that old man, we kept seeing him over and over again, and we honestly like they kept showing him off as the antagonist because he kept pushing the main character's buttons and messing with him and all this other stuff. So we honestly thought that they were gonna clash at some point, but apparently they're the same guy. And I was like, what the heck? And it was so confusing. This series, it had no real order to the way it was explaining certain things, and they kept jumping through stuff that made absolutely no sense. They kept showing off stuff that then had no real reason to exist. When he started questioning himself, then with the whole I don't even know, I'm not real, and he started talking to a guy who was supposed to be his friend. Apparently, they've never even talked before. I mean, they're friends. They kept showing him off in school, and when he's in school, the guy's talking to him. But apparently, they weren't friends until the one girl showed up, the Remy. She's the pink-haired one. She showed up, and then apparently something happened to where she fucked up his mind to make him think that he's been friends with the boy, the main character, their entire life. But apparently that's not a real thing because everybody's questioning why he's being so friendly to the main character because that's never been a real thing before. So they honestly did so many. I mean, like I said, I finished it. I don't know how. I don't know why. If I were to give this series a rating, 3.2 out of 10. I don't know. It was just a confusing series, and I finished it for no freaking reason. I personally didn't enjoy it that much, so that says a lot right there. But anyways, guys, if you have seen the series and you did enjoy it, leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in future videos.